What's going on, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz, and in today's video we're going to be covering which Pokemon are going to be the best to spend your extra large rare candy on in Pokemon GO. As always though, before we go and get started, if you guys do end up finding this video helpful, please make sure to smash that like button down below. It helps me out a ton with the YouTube algorithm. But with that being said, let's go and get started. So the most important factor when determining which Pokemon are going to be the best to invest your extra large rare candy into is accessibility. For example, most legendary Pokemon can be raided, and from these raid battles you are guaranteed 3 extra large candy if you raid them in person, and another 3 for just catching the Pokemon. Now unfortunately though, the only other way to get extra large candy for these legendary Pokemon is to walk them or transfer any extra Pokemon, and even then, transferring Pokemon doesn't actually guarantee that you're going to get an extra large candy, but you do have a higher chance depending on how high that Pokemon level is, but again, it's never guaranteed. The same goes for walking as well. You have a chance to get an extra large candy, but it is not guaranteed. The walking requirement for legendary Pokemon is 20 kilometers, which is significantly more than the other Pokemon in game. The normal increments are 1, 3, and 5 kilometers depending on the rarity. Now when it comes down to mythical Pokemon from quests, this is where accessibility gets even tougher. So you're gonna get some extra large candy from catching the Pokemon initially, but after that your only other option is to walk it or use extra large rare candy. So it seems like mythical Pokemon should be the obvious choice then, right, to use your extra large rare candy on? Well, this would be true, but we do have to factor in meta relevance and potential power creeps. Now we're going to start off this list with one of the most difficult Pokemon to get in the game, but also has like one of the best meta relevance right now in the Master League, and that is going to be Zygarde in its complete form. This requires 200 Zygarde cells to get, and it's extremely difficult to get in game because you have to do routes to get Zygarde cells, and even then when you do those routes, it's not guaranteed to get the cells. They're really hard to see on the map, you can easily miss it. And honestly, right now this feature is extremely unpolished, but if you are able to secure those 200 Zygarde cells, this Pokemon is going to help you secure some crazy wins in the Master League, regardless of the IVs that you got in your Zygarde. I mean, seriously, it's just amazing. So in the Master League, it is ranked number 1 with Dragon Tail, Crunch, and Earthquake. Some of the key wins it's going to be getting are going to be over Giratina Origin Form, Zacian in its Hero Form, Metagross, Garchomp, and Mewtwo. Its key losses are mainly going to be against Togekiss, Mamoswine, Sylveon, Dialga, and Lugia. So I mean, it's not like it's perfect, but it's such a good addition to anybody's Master League team. And right now, in terms of actually getting it to level 50, again, like the only way to do that is to walk it or to use your extra large rare candy. The next Pokemon that we're going to talk about is going to be Mega Diancie. This was released earlier this year for Pokemon Go Fest if you bought the ticket, and then also I guess if you went to any of the in-person Go Fest, you were also able to get Mega Diancie that way. Now this Pokemon, if you weren't able to get it, it's okay, because while it is the best rock type attacker in the game right now with its Mega form, it is also going to be tied with Mega Tyranitar along with Shadow Rhyperior and Shadow Rampardos. Those last 2 Pokemon were just recently added into the game, and honestly they're not that common to get from Team Go Rocket Grunt, so while they are on par with Mega Tyranitar and Mega Diancie, they are, in terms of accessibility, a little bit tougher to get. That being said though, you know, because you can essentially get the equivalent from Tyranitar, you know, that is a Pokemon that is so much easier to get the extra large candy on. So bottom line is that you could end up giving Diancie some extra large rare candy if you don't have Mega Tyranitar, or if you just want to use Mega Diancie instead of Mega Tyranitar, but that's totally up to you. Alright, the next Pokemon that we're going to talk about is going to be Meloetta in its Aria form. This is the only version of Meloetta that has been released right now, so don't worry if you don't know what the Aria form is, it's probably the one that you already have. So this Pokemon is mainly just relevant in the Master League. It's currently ranked number 9 though in the Master League, with Quick Attack, Psyshock, and Dazzling Gleam. Like any Pokemon that we're going to talk about in this video though, it can be outclassed in the future, especially when it comes down to PvP because of the meta changes and the new movesets that get added every season. So while Meloetta is currently one of the best Pokemon to invest your extra large rare candy into, just tread with a little bit of caution. This can get outclassed in the future, and unlike some of the other Pokemon I'm going to talk about in this video, it doesn't have meta relevance anywhere else except for Master League. Now following that, the next Pokemon that we're going to talk about is going to be Zarude. This is currently ranked at number 27 in the Master League. It has gone down a little bit, with Vine Whip, Dark Pulse, and Power Whip. This is also currently one of the top grass type attackers to power up in the game, but if you have Kartana, that Pokemon is going to be better than Zarude as a grass type attacker. That being said though, because it does have dual functionality in both the Master League as well as a top grass type attacker in the game, this gets a more solid recommendation for me in terms of investing that extra large rare candy. The next Pokemon that we're going to talk about is going to be Shaman in its Sky form. This Pokemon is slightly better than Zarude in the grass type meta, but Kartana is still going to be better than both of them. Now, in my opinion, this Pokemon isn't really worth powering up past level 40, just because, you know, in terms of its overall meta relevance, it doesn't have any play in the Master League, so you can throw that one out the window. And then in terms of the grass type meta, I'd really see this one getting outclassed. So we still got a few more mythical Pokemon left to go over. The next one is going to be Solgaleo. So this is currently ranked number 18 in the Master League with Fire Spin, Psychic Fangs, and Iron Head. We are currently waiting on its signature move, Sunsteel Strike, which I don't know when that's going to get released, but you know, when that does get released, it's going to be a steel type move, and this could definitely change its placement in the Master League as well as in the Raid/Gym meta. So Solgaleo is definitely looking like a really good pick to invest some extra large rare candy into right now, and I would even argue the same could be said for Lunala, but again, we are waiting on its signature move, Moongeist Beam, and not to mention it also has a potential to get Shadow Claw added to its fast move pool in the future, which would be completely game-changing for it in terms of its ghost-type meta relevance right now as a raid attacker. So given the potential for Lunala and then also its current meta relevance for Solgaleo, Cosmog is probably a good Pokemon to invest your extra large rare candy into right now. Now the next two mythical Pokemon that we're going to talk about are both Pokemon that you can get from raid battles. The first one is going to be Deoxys in its defense form. And this Pokemon is really solid in the Ultra League, the Open Ultra League, I should say. It's currently ranked number 45 with Counter, Psycho Boost, and Rock Slide. This actually used to be ranked in like the top 5. It's actually gone down quite a bit since then. But the reason why this is so good is because it is a freaking tank, man. Now, unfortunately, because this Pokemon is a mythical, you cannot trade it, so the only way to get a good IV spread is just by raiding and hope that you roll low attack and high defense and high stamina, and yeah, then you're pretty much good to go. This one does take, I believe, almost the entire, like, 296 extra large candy, so I don't think you're gonna hit level 50 exactly, but it's gonna be, like, really close, like level 49 or level 48 or something like that. It's really up there in terms of hitting that 2500 CP limit. So yeah, in my opinion, this one's pretty good to throw your extra large rare candy into, but again, it has a little bit, you know, less value compared to some of the other Pokemon that we just talked about, because all of those Pokemon were specifically from quests, except for Zygarde, because that's from, you know, the Zygarde cells and the routes. But, you know, these two Pokemon, because you can raid them, it's a little bit easier to get the extra large candy on them. For Deoxys, you just gotta wait till it comes back into rotation, because the last 2 times it's come back into rotation, it's come back with all of its forms in different rotations. So, you know, no matter which Deoxys you end up raiding, you're going to get extra large candy for it. Next Pokemon that we're going to talk about is going to be Darkrai, which is currently waiting on its signature move, Dark Void. This is currently a pretty good Dark-type attacker in the Raid/Gym meta right now. It doesn't have as much play in the Master League anymore, like it did at one time, but you have way better options out there like Yveltal, which we will talk about later on in this video. And even in the Raid/Gym meta, because Tyranitar got access to Brutal Swing, it's just a much better pick right now as a Dark-type attacker, so yeah, I mean, Darkrai, while I would say it's worth giving extra large rare candy, given the accessibility when it comes back into raids and currently the meta relevance of it at the moment, I would probably avoid this one, but in the future, like, it does have potential with Dark Void. Now with that being said, that pretty much covers every mythical Pokemon I wanted to talk about in this video. There are other mythical Pokemon out there like Mew, Celebi, Jirachi, etc. There's tons of them. But those Pokemon did not make the cut for this video. Like, everything that I talked about so far can definitely be justified in putting extra large rare candy into. Moving on though, these next Pokemon that I'm about to talk about are super exciting because their meta relevance is just phenomenal in like all aspects of the game. So we're gonna start off with Groudon, which is currently ranked number 3 in the Master League with Mudshot, Precipice Blades, and Fire Punch. Precipice Blades and Fire Punch are both legacy movesets, so you're gonna have to use 2 Elite TMs if you want to get it, but in my opinion, it is totally worth it to use it on Groudon. Like, Groudon is the best ground-type attacker in the game, non-Mega, non-Shadow, with Precipice Blades right now, and it's also the best ground-type attacker in the game with its Primal form, and not to mention, if you run it with that moveset for Master League, it's also really good to use in Team Go Rocket battles. So all around, Groudon is probably the best pick, even though like you can definitely raid it to get the extra large candy for it, if you wanted to put extra large rare candy into your Groudon, that would be such a good pick. Because like all around guys, like this is not going anywhere in terms of meta relevance, it's gonna stay at the top. Even if like Shadow Groudon gets released, I mean, you still have this one for the Primal. Now what about its counterpart, Kyogre? Well, Kyogre is unfortunately ranked a little bit, lower in the Master League. It's ranked at number 31, which is still pretty good. With Waterfall, Surf, and Origin Pulse. Origin Pulse is going to be the signature move, so it is going to be a legacy move now that you have to use an Elite TM to get. But again, guys, it is currently the best water-type attacker in the game in its primal form with Origin Pulse, and it's also the best water-type attacker in the game, non-mega, non-shadow, with Origin Pulse as well. So yeah, these definitely get my stamp of approval. These are without a doubt two of the best Pokemon that you can put extra large rare candy into. And we have the trio as well, because Rayquaza is going to be the next Pokemon that we're going to talk about. It's currently ranked number 10 in the Master League with Dragon Tail, Breaking Swipe, and Dragon Ascent. Now, Breaking Swipe is a legacy moveset, and Dragon Ascent you can only get if you give Rayquaza a Meteorite. Now, these were given out during Go Fest this past year, and there was also a small chance to get them from raid battles, but your Rayquaza that you give Dragon Ascent to, it has to be a really good Rayquaza, or potentially just the shiny, because I think the shiny just looks awesome. But trust me guys, like, it is going to be one of the best investments you make in this game. It is currently the best dragon and flying type attacker in the game with its mega form. It's also a top dragon type attacker just without its mega form with Breaking Swipe or potentially Outrage. Again, if you want to go Outrage, that's cool, but you don't get the dual functionality of using it in Master League if you go Outrage. So Dragon Tail plus Breaking Swipe and Dragon Ascent, using those, I guess I wouldn't say 2 Elite TMs because it's really 1 Elite TM plus a Meteorite. But yeah, all around, when it comes down to investing your extra large rare candy into Rayquaza, without a doubt, just like Groudon and Kyogre, it is going to be such a good investment. It's really hard to go wrong investing into either of these 3 Pokemon. And we do have one more Pokemon that is also going to be just as good as these 3 Pokemon, and some of you probably already guessed it by now. That Pokemon is going to be Mewtwo. So Mewtwo is ranked number 13 in the Master League with Psycho Cut, Psystrike, and Shadow Ball. Psystrike and Shadow Ball are both going to be legacy movesets, so another Pokemon that does require a double Elite TM, but I mean, without a doubt, guys, it's one of the best investments you can make. Now, I do want to highlight the difference in the fast moves, because if you're going to run it in PvP, you want to use Psycho Cut, but if you're going to run it in raid battles, you want to use Confusion, and the same thing goes with Team Go Rocket battles as well. You want to use Confusion instead of Psycho Cut. It just hits way harder, and you get a lot more DPS times TDO that way, but again, when it comes down to PvP, you want to charge your moves faster so you can burn your opponent's shields. So in simple terms, Psycho Cut for PvP, Confusion for raid battles, and you can, easily switch between those two. Now, again, guys, Mewtwo is going to be the best Psychic type attacker in the game, non-mega, non-shadow with Psystrike right now, and it's also going to be getting 2 mega forms in the future. So even though we don't have the mega forms in game just yet, it's one of the most anticipated Pokemon without a doubt. Like, Rayquaza was up there with Mewtwo in terms of anticipation, and now that we already have Mega Rayquaza, well, Mewtwo is one of the only ones left at this point. So yeah, an investment into Mewtwo, never really a bad thing to do. So even though you can do these Pokemon in raid battles, investing your extra large rare candy into any of these 4, Groudon, Kyogre, Rayquaza, and Mewtwo, are going to be such a solid investment because they have the Megas and the Primals. They're the best in their class without that, and they all have meta relevance in PvP. So like, what more could you ask for in a Pokemon when it comes down to investing? These 4 are without a doubt like the best of the best. All right, moving on, let's talk about some of the other Pokemon that you guys can get from legendary raid battles. Now, again, not all these Pokemon are going to have meta relevance in the Master League, but a lot of them do, as well as having meta relevance in the raid/gym meta. Dual functionality is such a key aspect to investments and just potential power creeps. So the next Pokemon that we're going to talk about is going to be Reshiram, which is currently ranked number 16 in the Master League with Dragon Breath, Fusion Flare, and Draco Meteor. Fusion Flare is going to be its signature move, so it is going to be legacy. Now, this is also going to be the best fire type attacker in the game, non-mega, non-shadow with Fusion Flare, so it's easily like such a good investment because again, you get dual functionality, Master League, as well as a really good fire type attacker. Now, we do also have to talk about his counterpart, Zekrom, which unfortunately I don't have the best news for, and I'm going to explain why that is in a second here. So yes, it is number 11 in the Master League right now with Dragon Breath, Crunch, and Wild Charge, and it is also one of the top electric type attackers in the game with Fusion Bolt, non-mega, non-shadow. But the tricky part about this one is that Zekrom, while it is kind of worth the investment, you won't ideally be using Fusion Bolt for PvP, and you can't TM it because that move is Legacy, like that's its signature move. So for that reason, I didn't rank this one as well as Reshiram, just because, like, if you were using Fusion Bolt plus Crunch along with Dragon Breath as a fast move, that would be a different story, because then you're getting dual functionality out of Master League as well as a raid attacker. But in this scenario, you have to pick one or the other, which kind of sucks. Not to mention Xurkitree is also slightly better as an attacker for the raid/gym meta, so I mean, if you want to run it for Master League, I could understand why that would be a good investment, but given that you don't get dual functionality, this one does rank a little bit lower than some of the other Pokemon that I've talked about in this video so far. Alright, moving on though, let's talk about Xerneas next. Now this Pokemon recently just got a buff because it got access to Geomancy, which is a move that has been anticipated to get released into Pokemon GO for a very long time. Now this moveset is a signature moveset, so if you weren't able to get it from the raid battles, you're going to have to give it an Elite Fast TM, and ideally the moveset that you want to run for Master League is going to be Geomancy plus Close Combat and Moonblast. Now before getting access to Geomancy, Xerneas really wasn't that good for anything, but because it has a Fairy Fast move now combined with Moonblast, this actually makes it the best Fairy type attacker in the game right now, non-Mega, non-Shadow. Shadow Gardevoir is of course going to be slightly better, but you know, more resources, right? Right now, Xerneas, it's looking pretty good. Now what about its counterpart, Yveltal? So we did mention this earlier when we talked about Darkrai. Yveltal is pretty much the, I wouldn't say like it's the ideal dark type for the Master League, but it's probably up there as one of the better ones. So it's currently ranked number 25 in Master League. Oblivion Wing is going to be its signature moveset, so it is going to be Legacy. And Oblivion Wing actually made it one of the best, or I shouldn't say one of the best, one of the top flying type attackers in the game, non-Mega, non-Shadow, so this propelled it up a ton. Before you really only had like Shadow Moltres, but now, you know, Yveltal with Oblivion Wing is comparable to that. So in my opinion, Yveltal is a really solid pick to invest into just because it does have that dual functionality as well. And I don't know if it's going to maintain its meta relevance as much in the Master League, but I would say it's a pretty safe pick as of right now. And you know, worst case scenario, you just have a really awesome flying type attacker to use that is not going to cost you as much as a Shadow Moltres would. So we're going through a lot of trios and duos right now. The next trio that we're going to talk about is going to be the Time Trio. So Dialga is going to be up first. This Pokemon used to be one of the best, like without a doubt, one of the best investments for the Open Master League. With Dragon Breath, Iron Head, and Draco Meteor. It's currently ranked number 23, so it's still a really good pick. It was just like ranked within the top 5 for the longest time. Now, additionally, on top of that, Dialga is also a pretty solid Dragon type attacker if you do end up getting to level 50. It's not going to be like the best, like you have way better options out there, but if you already are going to be level 15 a Dialga, you could use that as a Dragon type attacker just by itself. And you already have the moveset like good to go in Master League, so Dragon Breath plus Draco Meteor, boom, you're already done. And I think that's the beautiful thing about some of these Pokemon that you invest into, is that the dual functionality aspect of them is just so good. Now what about Palkia though? How does Palkia rank in the Master League as well as in the raid/gym meta? So Palkia actually ranks as number 19 in the Master League right now with Dragon Tail, Aqua Tail, and Draco Meteor. No signature moves for either of these two Pokemon, which makes them a little bit more ideal, not having to use an Elite TM, but really I don't think that's the biggest resource here, right? It's obviously getting the extra large candy to get it to level 50. Now very similar to Dialga, if you actually power up Palkia to level 50, this makes it one of the top Dragon type attackers in the game, non-Mega, non-Shadow. Are there going to be better ones out there like Shadow Salamence, Shadow Dragonite, where if you powered those up to level 50, they'd be a lot better? Yeah, absolutely, but are you getting dual functionality in them? Shadow Dragonite, yes. Shadow Salamence, no. And so I just think it's great when you can combine two aspects of the game into one. I've said that so many times in this video, but it's really one of the key points that I'm hitting home on right now in terms of why these Pokemon are the best to put your extra large rare candy into, or just really the best to focus on in general. This video does kind of highlight more than just the extra large rare candy aspect of the game. Now of course, Dialga and Palkia would not be complete without Giratina in both its origin form as well as its altered form. Both forms are actually ranked within the top 20 for Master League, so they're both really good investments, and again, same extra large candy function. Giratina origin form is also one of the best ghost type attackers in the game though, non-Mega, non-Shadow, whereas Giratina altered is mainly just utilized for PvP, but Giratina altered is ranked much better in the Master League opposed to Giratina origin form, so you kind of have to take your pick there, but either way, like just putting extra large rare candy into Giratina by itself is a pretty safe investment because you can choose whether or not you want to go origin or altered at a later point in time. The next Pokemon we're going to talk about is going to be Terrakion. Unfortunately, the other Feather Swords of Justice did not make the cut, so we're just going to talk about Terrakion. Now, unfortunately, this one is ranked a bit lower in the Master League, but it does have some play, like very minimal play. I would say it's more niche than anything else, but it's ranked number 55 in the Master League with Double Kick, Sacred Sword, and Rock Slide. Sacred Sword is going to be a legacy moveset. Now, why this Pokemon is so good is not so much its Master League presence. That's like a very niche dual functionality aspect of it, but it is currently the best fighting type attacker in the game right now, non-Mega, non-Shadow with Sacred Sword, and it's like the best by a long shot. The other fighting type attackers in the game don't even come close to this guy right now. So yeah, Terrakion is definitely going to be a solid investment for the future. Now, as we're getting towards the end of this list here, the next few Pokemon that I'm going to talk about are not going to have a dual functionality, unfortunately, but they're still going to be really great picks for either of the metas. So the next Pokemon is going to be focused in PvP. That's going to be Registeel, which is currently ranked number 1 in the Open Ultra League with Lock On, Focus Blast, and Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon is going to be a legacy moveset, so you have to use an Elite TM on that. This has held one of the top spots in the Ultra League though for quite some time, and I honestly don't see this going anywhere anytime soon. Like, even if the meta changes, I really see this Pokemon holding like the top 20 with an Ultra League for just the foreseeable future. It's just that good, guys. The next Pokemon we're going to talk about is going to be Lugia, which is currently ranked number 21 in the Master League with Dragon Tail, Sky Attack, and Aeroblast. Aeroblast is going to be a legacy moveset, so you're going to have to use an Elite TM on that. Now, do not, for any reason, use Lugia in raid battles. Just please don't ever do that. It is not good in raid battles. It is specifically good in the Master League. There is no dual functionality about Lugia. It is just purely good as a Master League Pokemon if you end up getting a really good IV spread on it. It's such a tank. Like, it is so annoying to battle in game, and it's really frustrating every time I have to go up against it, which is why it makes it such a good Pokemon, because if it's that frustrating for me to see it every time I'm battling the Master League, it means it's going to be a great Pokemon to use on the offense as well for you guys. Alright, next up, let's talk about Xurkitree, and the next 3 Pokemon are actually all going to be Ultra Beasts. So Xurkitree is one of the top, actually it's the best electric type attacker in the game right now, non-Mega, non-Shadow. So even though this Pokemon doesn't have dual functionality, it is so awesome because it hits like 4,000 CP, and I think any Pokemon that hits like 4,000 CP is really cool in my book because there's only a handful of those Pokemon. Actually, there's more than a handful, but you guys get what I'm trying to say here. Xurkitree, like, it's on the bottom of this list for a reason because it doesn't have dual functionality, but that doesn't mean that it's not worthy of using the resources. Now, of course, the same could be said for Kartana. We talked about this earlier when we were going over Zarude as well as Shaman in its Sky form. This is currently the best grass type attacker in the game, non-Mega, non-Shadow. Same justification as Xurkitree, it is the best. I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon. And then of course our final Pokemon is going to be Nalego. This is currently the best poison type attacker in the game, non-Mega, non-Shadow. There were a lot of Pokemon in this video that I talked about that maybe were not going to be the best investments, but like if you happen to just put extra large rare candy into it because maybe you really like that Pokemon or you just wanted to get it to level 50 even faster, like they wouldn't be terrible investments. Like I'm talking like if you put extra large rare candy into like a Dragonite, that's a pretty bad investment. Like, the resource is so hard to get, and Dragonite is far easier to get extra large candy on. Every Pokemon that we mentioned in this video was either mythical or legendary, which all have the toughest walking requirements to get extra large candy on. You know, the transfer requirements are not always great. Mythical, you can't even trade them. So yeah, there's a lot of things that make it really difficult to get extra large candy in general on these Pokemon, but as we got lower in the list, they were more accessible. Whereas at the start of the list, you know, those are all mythical Pokemon, so those are the most difficult ones to get. But again, not all of them have like great meta relevance, so is it really worth it just because it's rare? Not necessarily. And again, you guys have like 25, actually 26 different options to go through in this video. This is probably going to be relevant for quite some time. Anyways though, that pretty much covers everything for this video. This one took a ton of time and effort to put together, but hopefully you guys did find it helpful. If you're still looking for some more content though, check out these 2 videos right here. And before you go, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you all real soon in the next one.